Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Flip Your Switch with Grace. Today, our topic is about mindfulness. In today's stressful world, finding physical and mental space for peace and calm can be a challenge. Mindfulness is a simple and powerful practice that can help you cut through the noise and reclaim tranquility wherever you are. Our guest tonight is very special. I've been following her podcast in the same Global TV. I was really impressed because she's helping a lot of people. She's a doctor. I will introduce her. Her name is Dr. Irish Rajdev. She is a physician, content creator, author, social entrepreneur. What inspires her is a meaningful life or living, and she's gonna talk about four aspects of life: the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Um, she has a long, of course. She is a multi-passionate medical doctor, author, speaker, social entrepreneur who is guided by her purpose of helping others experience purposeful, harmonious, and mindful living. She is a graduate of BS Pharmacy in 2019, no, in 1999 at University of the Philippines, Manila. She is also a graduate of UST, Doctor of Medicine in 2004. And I was reading her bio and I was so impressed. This one is one of the biggest achievements. She is in fourth place or third place in pharma board exam. That's huge, guys. In the Philippines, that's hard. And 10th place in medical board exam. She also got had awards as, of course, the board top notcher in 2008. She migrated to Canada in 2008 and did her residency in University of British Columbia, and one of the resident of 13 applicants from a poll of 1005. Very smart. And she's my kababayan. When we were talking, just introducing ourselves, it's a small world. She used to be a classmate of my brother, who's a Catholic priest in the Philippines. What a small world. So she also did her work as an ER doctor. And correct me if I pronounce this right. Is it Shell? What hospital is this one? I cannot pronounce it.
Seashell Hospital.
2 years. And then she realized that she has a different purpose in life. And this is going to be her topic tonight. Without further ado, help me welcome Dr. Irish Rajdev. Take it
Oh,
away.
hi. Hello, Grace. Thank you very much for Ate Grace. Thanks for having me here. Tonight's focus will be something that's really close to my heart. It's one of those things that I am a practitioner of, and not many people, especially in the Philippines, will know about just yet. I know that a handful of people know about it somehow, but it's not mainstream yet. And with the current situation we're facing, with a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unusual things happening in our world, it's so very important to know how to deal with those things in a way that will serve you best. And so our topic tonight regarding mindfulness is something that I think should be highlighted, because it is another way of dealing with things and adversities. So yeah, pretty happy to be here.
Yes, watching tonight is, of course, our friend from Canada, Sherilyn Ortez, a part of our nutrigenomics company. She used to be a former student of mine watching from Canada. So, yeah, she's based in Canada too, Miss Cheryl. Okay, the first question is, what is mindfulness, Doctor?
Mindfulness, there are many definitions, and that's a great question. If you've never encountered it before, it may be something that it's totally, like probably not that well understood really in its real context. When you say mindful, people just say, "Oh, yeah, mind what you're doing." But the real definition of mindfulness, one of the best that I like the most, is the one brought to us by the person who actually brought it to Western medicine, Dr. John Kabat-Zinn. He is a psychologist. He brought the practice of mindfulness to the West. And I like his definition. It's simply a way of paying attention. It's paying attention in a very particular way without judgment. So, experiencing the moment as it unfolds, and you paying attention that the moment is unfolding without you passing any judgment, simply being an observer. So, it doesn't sound like much, but when you actually practice it and apply it in your day to day life, it can really um, open your eyes to the value of the present moment, of being there and not missing out on life. So that's the definition that I resonate the most with. And yeah, there are many other definitions of it, and all of them so far that I've read are pretty good. But this one, I think the key concept of paying attention in a particular way without judgment, that to me really encompasses the practice.
Wow, that's amazing. So, how do we use mindfulness in holistic, approach of, because right now a lot of people are having anxiety. Um, what what is the relation of mindfulness and, treating or using this in holistic approach?
So the practice of mindfulness really came about as an adjunct. So it was an adjunct to the usual therapy that we give our patients. So Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, actually pioneered the program helping people with chronic diseases. So this started in the University of Massachusetts. So they had this group of patients who were very sick, you know, some were like cancer survivors, some were living with chronic pain, and there didn't seem to be other modalities that could help them in the traditional kind of medical world. And so Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, after encountering the practice, wanted to bring the healing aspects of it to people who were struggling. And so these are people who, like, they were ready to try anything, right? Because nothing else was working for them. They were really like steeped in pain, steeped in suffering from the medical condition. And so why not, right? Like, let's go for other means. And so the way that this works is it allows you to experience a certain event in your life. Like, it can be a difficulty, it can be an illness. Experience it in a way that you are responding to it rather than reacting to it. So it allows you to experience it differently. And so rather than suffering, you're able to stand beside your difficulty, your challenge, your pain. And so it doesn't overwhelm you. And so eventually, this trickled into stress management. Because if these people with intractable conditions, these people with seemingly incurable diseases could benefit from it, and then more so the other people who actually were not that sick but who were struggling with stress, because it's one of those things, modern they our modern like technology, our situation has brought on a lot of stressors in our lives. It became too fast paced, too automatic, and so a lot of people struggle with stress, and I frankly was one of them before I encountered this practice. And so when you're able to stand in stand beside your pain, your struggle, your stress, and not get affected by it. And then that becomes a really powerful tool for you, a very powerful strategy for you to continue to enjoy life in spite of what's happening, the things that you can't control. And so that brought in this whole revolution about like mindfulness based strategies to manage stress, for example. And then eventually it trickled down to wellness, holistic wellness, because it wasn't only applicable to stress, it was applicable to a variety of medical conditions. And even now, surprisingly, oh, actually, not really surprisingly, even now to peak performance. So a lot of like coaches, a lot of like, in the athlete world or even in business. So a lot of entrepreneurs, high performing entrepreneurs, they've tapped into the power of what mindfulness brings us, the ability to channel your focus so you can focus more on the things that will serve you best, and at the same time you're actually okay standing beside your difficulty. So that's a really powerful way to kind of live like the modern life as we know it right now, because the real life really is full of challenges. So yeah, if there's a way to be able to live with your challenges and be okay that you have challenges but still be really aware and focus more on the things that are more important to you, then that's an asset. And so it is now like well embraced in the corporate world, in business, even in the arts, theater, like in peak performance. So yeah, it's really fascinating.
That's amazing. How did you start doing this? Like from working as a doctor in ER and then shift to this. How did you started doing this? Will you share that to us?
Well, it was I think a product of just living that fast-paced life. When you're working in the emergency room, when you are a full-time, really busy doctor, juggling many roles, you come to the point, as with many people, you come to the point where you get overwhelmed. And so, especially in our profession, so healthcare professionals in general, or other really busy like professional, for example, a lawyer, an accountant, an engineer, uh, you come to a point where on the outside, things look great. You're making money, you have everything you need, right? You have your title, like all the outwardly things that people will say, oh, that person's successful. You have it. But on the inside, it's like a duck. A duck, you're looking at the duck on the pond. The duck is like looking so peaceful, but underneath, it's paddling really hard. So that's, in essence, that's what really happened to me. And so I had to find a better way. I had to find a better way to get out of this, overwhelm, the cycle. It's a vicious circle. It's a vicious cycle of overwhelm.
That's amazing. We as practitioners, caregivers, parents, we all are have this, you know, stressful life, and we need that mindfulness. And this is very powerful because I've been reading about that. Sometimes this book says it lowers your stress, it eases pain, and also it calms you. It makes you really be actually in where you are. You can, it could help improve your memory. Okay, can you tell me about it more, Dr.? If you have slides, you might want to share it.
I don't particularly have, I don't have like very specific slides. I think I kind of covered the main points, but I can give you like my general slides here. It is an evidence-based approach. So there's a lot of science that supports it. And in fact, with the advent of uh, what we call like modern imaging, so like functional MRI, they're able now to prove the effects of mindfulness. Whereas before, people used to think of it as a new age, like strategy. It was like a fad. Now we have real science to prove that it actually works. And that was a great question with the memory, because it's really one of the things that can improve. You can change the structure of your brain. So I have like some introduction slides here, but I don't have that. I think we better, yeah, we can just talk about it, because I don't have that particular slide to demonstrate the
That's fine.
effect in the brain. Yeah. Maybe what I can share would be the just, to talk a little bit more about the science of it. Let me see. Uh, are you able to see my slides?
Yes, we can see it. Where you focus goes, your life flows. That's right.
Yeah. So pretty much, really, what it's saying is when you obviously focus on, when you get caught up in life, like all the trials of life, when you focus on the negative aspect of it, for example, then you tend to see more, right? Because you're focusing on that. But when you're focusing on the positive aspects of it, practicing, for example, gratitude, then you actually see more of the good things in life, the better memories. And so the practice of mindfulness helps us to become aware how we are where we are focusing our attention on and how that's affecting our life. So this is the main tenet here. When you encounter a situation, so any situation, it could be a bad situation, a good situation, there is this tendency to usually become reactive. So like this, especially if it's a bad situation, most people would start to like react. And this is like a, it's an instant reaction. You can't seem to control it. But what we do want, in order for us to reap the most out of a specific situation, a situation that will benefit us most, we need to have this capacity to be responsive rather than reactive. But how do we actually do that? Because emotions are they happen very fast, right? When you're faced with a very difficult situation, especially or caught by surprise, it seems like you may have no way of stopping your emotions. But the truth is, you actually can. But it requires, just like how you go to the gym to train your muscles, this also requires practice. And so this is where the mindfulness comes in. So just to understand a little bit of the science behind it. So our brain was designed to help us survive. So the brain was built to help identify stimulus. Is a stimulus going to be beneficial for you, or is a stimulus dangerous? Now, the default pathway of the brain is to look out for danger. This is the reason why we humans survived um, all those time, because we are equipped with a brain that's trained to specifically look for danger. So the danger pathway actually is the main pathway. Now, if when a person is faced with like a situation that the brain perceives as danger, it activates this part of the brain. So this is our stress center. It's the thing in red. So now this thing in red is a very small area, but what it essentially does is it alerts the brain that, you know what, there's danger here. My goal is to help you survive. So this is what needs to happen. So it's a small area that's really powerful, and it's the default pathway. Because remember, your brain is always on the lookout for danger, so it can help you survive. And it worked pretty well in the old days, right? Like when we were faced with things like a saber-toothed tiger, for example, right? It worked really well. But now fast forward to today, right? It's a different scenario. We're not being chased by lions anymore or saber-toothed tiger. We don't have to sleep outside. These days, when you want to go to sleep, you have a warm bed. You don't have to hunt for food. And like in the old days, you're always on the alert because you always need to fight for your survival. Unfortunately, our brains have not evolved as fast as our technology. And so the default pathway still remains to be your very sensitive stress center with this amygdala hippocampus area here. And so what happens when the brain perceives? And so you see here, I put in there the quote unquote perceived. It's because it really what your brain senses the stimulus to be that dictates the subsequent steps. So if your brain perceives that you are in danger, then it's going to activate a hormone cascade. So it will activate adrenaline. So this is the hormone that allows you to lift a heavy refrigerator in times of fire. So it's going to activate that hormone. It will activate cortisol, which is the main stress hormone. And so usually what happens when you are under the perception that you're in danger. So a lot of things, right? It's a cascade of events. Once those hormones start to act up, then you can get a few different things going on. You feel your heart beat getting faster, right? So a lot of people will say, "Oh my, like my heart is beating so fast, so loud." Some people get tense muscles. They would say, "Oh my like my neck is so tense or my shoulders," right? When you're in an acutely stressful situation. Some people will get more of the gastrointestinal. So they would complain about an upset stomach. Some people will want to vomit, for example, or feel like vomiting or moving their bowels sometimes unconsciously. And other people would say, their vision got blurry. So all these things are explained by the hormonal effects of the cascade. So the adrenaline, these things, just not to go into too much detail, but really these things are based on hormones. So the hormonal cascade that's happening. Now, it's good if the stressful situation or that perception of stress goes away after just a while. But the problem is sometimes in our modern day world, these acute stressors can pile up. Like every day, imagine you're always driving home, facing this like traffic, right? And so you always get into this acute stress. You always get these cascades of hormones in the acute phase, but over time, if you keep getting them, then they become chronic. So it becomes a chronic, like stressed state. And what does that look like? Well, chronic stressed state is really the summation of all these acute stressed state scenarios. So here you'll find that you're always fatigued, you have low energy, you tend to have like migraine headaches, your focus is affected. Some people can't sleep, and so it really is a conglomeration of the additive effect of acute stress. And over time, you'll see disease states, right? Like inflammatory conditions, rheumatologic conditions, your immune system getting really low. It's also been linked to things like diabetes, for example, and weight gain, right? Chronic stress, it'll affect because it's that cortisol effect. So it will have an effect on insulin. And so we know that people who can't sleep and who are always stressed, they have a hard time losing weight as well. Because all these things have to be in balance. All these hormonal signals have to be in balance for metabolism to actually work really well. So in my advices, when I'm giving advice about healthy living, I always talk about stress as well. It isn't enough to, just focus on the physical part of it, but there's an intangible inner part, inner working that needs to also be addressed for you to say that you're holistically well. And this is where the mental aspect of it and the emotional aspect of it comes into play, and even the spiritual aspect, because all these things will affect this regulation of metabolism. So the good news is the stress pathway can actually be modified because the brain is plastic. The brain is moldable. So this is what I was telling you earlier, that I didn't have that specific slide, but I have here a general slide that shows you how, for example, in people who are able to cope well, so they're resilient, they will have a different area of the brain activated compared to people who actually cannot cope. And this is where the beauty of the practice of mindfulness comes in, right? And how? It's because if you remember, so the stress center is behind this brain area here in white. And we have here the thinking part, which is the prefrontal cortex. And so when you are allow that energy, like the neural pathway, to shift from the stress center to the prefrontal cortex, which is actually your wisdom spot. I call it your wisdom spot because it's your thinking spot. So when you allow it to shift, then what happens is you essentially divert. So you're diverting the pathway, and instead of activating the stress cascade, you're able to avoid it. And this is where the powerful new evidence with functional MRI comes in, because you're able to demonstrate that this actually happens. It's not just theory. So you can see from that previous slide, right, how two images look very different. It's because of how the neurons process information. So how the pathways are activated. And so this is the exciting, field of mindfulness. This is the what the mindfulness practice can do for you. It can allow that brain rewiring to happen so that you can come from a really always stressed state to a state of calm, focus, creativity, being able to become aware of what's important, what do you need to actually focus on, rather than being carried away by your emotions all the time. So this is where the practice of mindfulness comes in, and this is why I'm very, very excited about it. And mindfulness, again, just to give you a very brief background, it isn't just what many people think it is, which is the first picture here, mainly meditation. Mindfulness can also be mindful movement. For example, like yoga, Tai Chi on this slide that you see here. So there are a few different ways to practice it. Even mindful eating, for example, can be a form of mindfulness. Even mindfully washing the dishes is a mindfulness practice. So another important myth that I want to dispel is when it comes to the meditative part of it, a lot of people become discouraged because they think that meditation and the practice of mindfulness means that your mind has to be blank. This is a myth. If you think about it, look at the word mindfulness, right? It is acknowledging that the mind is always full. The mind will always have thoughts. So it is wrong to assume that the only way to practice is if you can get your mind to become blank. It's exactly the opposite. So mindfulness is recognizing that the mind is full. And if you can detach from the thoughts and recognize that the thoughts are a separate event, they're separate from you, and are able to observe the thoughts simply as mental events, then that's what the practice is really all about, the ability to detach yourself from your thoughts. So it doesn't have to be blank. Your mind does not have to be blank for you to practice mindfulness. So I wanted to really touch on this because it's a common myth, and a lot of people will immediately push it away as an option because they say there's no way my mind can be blank. But it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. And so the way that it works in holistic wellness is when you become more mindful, then you can become aware that you do have all these different aspects of life, right? The life isn't just about being, say, successful in one part, like having monetary success, for example. It is an essential part, but it's not everything. And so when you become more mindful, when you immerse yourself in the practice of mindfulness, you start to realize the other important things. For example, relationships with the people who matter the most to you, your children, your spouse, your friends, your extended family, the people you work with. You become aware how you are communicating with them. You become aware of connections because you are in this constant state of observing without judging. You are in a state of being able to fully experience the moment. How many times has it ever happened to you, Ate Grace, where you are talking to someone and you, instead of listening, you're thinking of what you're going to say?
A lot.
right? Yeah, because we think that communication always has to be, I need to think about what I need to say, so, to engage the other person. But the reality is all you need to do is listen and be there, like observe, look at the person, feel what they're feeling, like be there with them. Many times we're sitting on the dinner table, right, with our loved ones, and a lot of times people will be holding their cell phones. They'll be, talking about certain things, and people don't really like take time to even enjoy the process of sitting together as a family, or even enjoying the meal, right? Even brushing our teeth. How many times have you actually experienced brushing your teeth and really just brushing your teeth, right? We're always on autopilot. We're always on, okay, I'm going to do this, but my mind is elsewhere, right? Or take a shower, but then you're thinking of other things. You are in a beautiful place, but you don't get to actually experience the moment as it's unfolding. So a lot of people are missing out. Like you're missing out on life because all you really have is the present moment. But if you are not there to fully experience it, then the moment passes by, it will never come again. It's like a river, right? Like you're standing in a river, water's flowing, that same water won't pass again, and you missed it, right? Because we think we have all these moments in life, but the reality is we don't know. We don't know for sure. And so many of us sink into, depression, like anxiety, because we always tend to either stick too much to the past, like really like live in the past, or all the way out in the future. And so that gets you to worry. Or if you're stuck in the past, then you get depressed because you think about the bad choices you've made, the bad experiences you've had, but you fail to recognize that you're actually here. You're here, you're alive. You have this present moment, and it
Yes.
it is wonderful in its own way. Even when you're in difficulty, when you are able to recognize that you're having a difficult time and detach from that, even that experience of difficulty actually becomes a beautiful moment. So, and it takes a while. I can't really explain it fully until I explain, like the practice of it and the science of it. Because, like, a lot of people will say, how can you say that? How can you say that, a bad moment is a beautiful moment? Well, it is recognizing that you are not your pain. You're not your struggle. Yes, there are very difficult situations, and I personally have been through those as a mindfulness practitioner, but also experiencing these challenges, and the ability to detach and stand beside your difficulty without denying that it exists, without suppressing it, really just standing there with it like a friend. Oh, pain is here. Oh, anxiety is here. It's visiting me. It's not letting me sleep tonight. Oh, there is insecurity. Insecurity came to visit. So when you're able to stand beside these difficult emotions, then it opens up a different way of experiencing life, of experiencing moments. Even grief. I recently lost my dad. Even grief, like, not to say that I would wish it on anyone, but even that can be beautiful in the way that you experience it differently. So I think I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm very passionate about it, but
That's
I think
okay.
really it's I think really the way that you can experience life in a more alive manner compared to just letting life pass by because you're not really experiencing moments as they unfold. So
Yeah. Being
yes, and
being present. I would like to let me greet our viewers. Beth Puno, he said, being present. Thank you for watching. We have Riza from certified in dementia. We also have Toribio, Maynard, Otalde, Diana Brown from. We have like a mix of viewers from America, from Philippines, from Canada. It's so amazing. And Leslie Carter, Renaline from New Jersey. She's also a nurse. Naomi from Arizona. My friend Eddie Russell here is listening. Martina, Agnes Alando from Satwita from Washington D.C. So we have Marjorie Ham from Texas. So we have a lot of present viewers here. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Doctora.
Yeah, so basically that's really just a primer. It's very very similar to wanting to. It starts with awareness. When you become aware, like for example, start to become aware that you'd want to have a healthy body, and you start researching the different ways, right? Like there's working out, there is eating healthier, and there are the holistic approaches. So it starts with that awareness. So it may be different reasons for a different person how mindfulness will come into your life, but it starts with that awareness of wanting to experience life in a different way. And so once you start doing the things that you need to do to actually become good at or to reach your goal. So for example, in this case, you wanted a healthy body, and so you start working out. It isn't the textbooks that you will read that'll help you actually get that healthy body, right? It isn't going to be all the videos that you've watched about how you can eat healthy. It's actually the practice. It's the practice of it that will make all those wirings in the brain rewire. So it's very much the same with mindfulness. It is a combination of informal and formal mindfulness training. So in my particular case, I did have to go through the actual courses. It is an 8-week course. It's the mindfulness based stress reduction course, the same one pioneered by Dr. John Kabat-Zinn to help all those patients. And I took additional ones, which is more geared for the clinician. So the mindfulness based cognitive therapy to help my patients with anxiety and depression. And so it's the daily practice of the two components, the formal, which is the meditative part, and the informal, which is more mindful movements, mindful eating, even mindful listening, mindful speaking. These are informal parts of the practice. And you do have to practice them on a daily basis for that rewiring to happen. It's not going to be overnight. It took me around, I would say, close to 3 years of my mindfulness practice when I noticed the appearance of what I fondly call my pause button. So it's my ability to pause in a situation. If you knew me from before, I'd be the last person you'd think could pause. I was a very, very highly reactive person. If something happened to me, I'd usually get into my default danger, survival mode. And so all the hormones would flood and I would be reacting, usually in a very detrimental way, right? Like as many people would be when faced with a challenging situation. So I'd be the last person you'd think would be able to pause, would have the ability to actually pause, evaluate, and respond rather than react. So I noticed the appearance of my pause button close to the third year. And in my work as a clinician, you get presented with these situations almost on a daily basis, right? You face death almost every day, difficult situations, heartbreaking situations, sometimes stressful situations as well. But when you get this pause button, it's like a completely different world. You're almost like, I don't know if anyone has had that experience of being like a out of the body experience where you can view something like zoomed out way and really look at the situation. Like I had a car accident one time, and it was just so surprising how the practice of mindfulness can help you like look at it without even like having that flood. Like you can actually choose. You get to choose. You realize that you have the power of choice. And actually, even now you do, right? But it's just that realization that you can choose how to respond. That's what's missing in a lot of us who have not had the chance to practice mindfulness. It certainly isn't the only way. There are other ways to increase your focus, your awareness. So there's like transcendental meditation. You've probably heard about that too. There are other approaches, but in my particular case, because I'm biased towards evidence, medical, the science behind it, and so that's what really pulled me to the practice. And I liked the concept that you can prove it with imaging. Functional MRIs, the images, they don't lie, right? Like you can actually see the difference. And so that has helped me in this way to become very aware of the key aspects of life. And so at Grace, I always talk about harmony, right? The key aspects of life. And it's the mindfulness that helped me form this concept that, in order to experience life fully, you have to have harmony in those key aspects. Otherwise, you're always going to miss out on something. And so that's how it became very instrumental in my having become like a proponent of harmony. Yeah. So that's really the gist of it. I won't. I think I can take some questions. I think that this
Yes,
is yeah.
you mentioned about mindful eating. A lot of people that's watching here are into uh, dieting, low carb. It's amazing that this motivation, mindfulness, can also make food taste better, and then you slow down eating and eventually naturally consume less. So that's amazing. One of the benefit of mindfulness. And also, I've read also that of course, it improves your mental focus. It improves your performance for those people that's in the doing athletic training. It can also cope with. It can also help you cope with cancer, um, and also boost your immunity. Would you say something about this one?
So again, this is where the beauty of the science comes in. So the thing about the immunity that was proven through a study that they did on people who practiced mindfulness and the ability of the immune system to become more reactive, like to function better. So again, science backs this up. So it is proven to enhance your immune response. They did some blood testing on people, they gave them vaccines, and the people who were practicing, like mindfulness practitioners, had a better immune response compared to people who were actually not practitioners. And the same thing with the memory. They looked at the memory areas of the brain and found that they're different in monks who were meditative, who practiced mindfulness, and regular people who don't practice mindfulness. Certainly those areas were vastly different. So in terms of peak performance, when you're focused, when you're more mindful, when you have mastered your sense of awareness, then you tend to be a higher performer, like a peak performer. So you probably know about Michael Phelps, right? Like he's the all-time, like so many, I think the highest number of Olympic medals. And also like, as a swimmer, he had so much success. And one of his things was to have that almost like meditative aspect to his practice. When he was in the water, he could actually like tune out everything. So that hyper focus, hyper awareness, which is so critical in athletes, high performing people, people like, for example, doctors and lawyers, accountants, or whoever needs to be artists, right? Creatives, people who need to be in the flow. Flow, by the way, is this state that they define in psychology where you're able to channel all your creativity and tune out the noise. So when you're a mindfulness practitioner, it's it's very easy for you to get into the flow because you're able to really parse out the unimportant things. So you get to focus on what's important to you. Mindful eating wise, so for people who are wanting to, and it has been proven that mindfulness practitioners would actually they have better way of controlling their weight. And this is why apps like Noom, you've seen the app Noom, Noom, they do a lot of, they put in a lot of that like psychological aspect of it, because in reality, when you're eating and not even thinking, right, like you're eating in front of the TV, before you know it, you've finished the whole bag of chips. But when you're a mindfulness practitioner, you every bite, every like even the look of the food, the smell of it, the taste of it, you're aware. Like when you pick up, for example, when I pick up a strawberry, right? Like you pick up a berry, you become mindful of what it took to bring this strawberry here. There was the sun, there was the farmer, the soil, right? Like all these ingredients that help bring this wonderful object that's gonna nourish you now. It's here. It's here. It came from a faraway place, but it made its way to your plate. And to savor each and every bite, a lot of us would just eat mindlessly, right? Like you would eat, can't even taste the food. You're eating and you're reading, you're scrolling, right? Or you're reading the paper, you're reading a book. But when you're really just there to experience the eating process, then you will find that you actually won't need to eat much, right? Because there's that awareness. And also remember the age old like adage that they always say you have to wait for a while before your brain picks up that you're actually already full. But if you eat too fast and too mindlessly, that doesn't happen, right? You can eat more than you really need, and yeah, without even noticing. But when you're mindful and you're really like aware of what you're doing, savoring each moment as it unfolds, then you'll find that you won't need to eat too much. You don't need much. And you pay more attention to your body, what your body really needs. So it paves the way for the signals to actually happen. And the signal will tell you you're full, stop,
Yeah, and
right?
to add, like my functional teacher said, that to chew your food really slow, and that's would add to your mindfulness too. So that so you could taste the food and then also consume less. So also, doctor, let me take advantage of this question. To people that's watching, you can type your questions in comment below if you have questions. How a lot of people's like I have teenagers teenager daughter, and some of her friends and some of my patients, they have like a racing thoughts. Can you at least advise like parents like me or other parents how to cope with this one, especially I'm autism specialist, and a lot of these kids with autism, they have the racing thoughts. How can we help them?
So again, it all starts with the simple awareness that the thought is a separate event. It is a mental event unfolding. And so if you have these succession of thoughts, then it's a parade. It's a parade of events. And you simply will have to observe as they pass, like clouds, right? Like when you're lying down on a nice park, nice sunny day, but with those nice clouds as well, you can observe them. They're passing. They don't stay, but you're separate from them. You're able to appreciate them. And so this is where the formal practice needs to come in, the actual, because it's a practice that'll help you to detach. It doesn't happen overnight. And this is where you have to be guided how to do it. Over time, as your practice gets stronger, you will have the ability to detach from your thoughts. And once that starts to happen, you start to see that your thoughts are not you. And even if the thoughts are a bit disturbing, a bit stressful, worrisome, that you can actually stand beside it, beside the thought. You can observe the thought without you being fully, engaged in it. And you can think better, right? So and again, it requires practice. So it first starts with awareness that thoughts are mental events only. They're not you. They're not your whole reality. So I think that's the first concept, and they teach that in the course, the mindfulness-based stress reduction, which by the way works really well for a variety of conditions. So anxiety, depression, PTSD, some studies in autism as well. So, but it is a formal program that you do have to go through because there's the science behind it, right? And so it needs to be replicable and be done in that format that's been proven to work by evidence.
Okay, so will the inhalation, exhalation help? Like sometimes, like when they're racing thoughts, and I would, tell some patient inhale, exhale. Would it help?
Definitely. So that is the kind of like the cornerstone of the formal practice. It's anchoring yourself to the breath. So the science behind it is when you are taking a breath in and deliberately like slowing down and really just focusing on the breath, having the longer exhalation, you're triggering the parasympathetic part of your nervous system, which is the rest and digest. There are two parts. The danger part, the one that's always active, it's the sympathetic. And so that's going to get your heart to race. It'll get your muscles tense, your vision blurry. But then the opposite part of it, which is the parasympathetic, that's the one that helps you to rest and digest and calm down. So that gets activated when you are breathing out longer. So when you take a breath in, allow your belly to expand. And when you breathe out, breathe longer. So say 2 breaths in, 4 to 6 breaths out. The parasympathetic gets activated and you start to calm down. And again, that in combination with the awareness that the event, you can detach from the event, it makes it even more powerful. So it again, this comes with practice. It's just like training in the gym, not gonna happen overnight, that you are able to automatically calm down, but it can happen with practice.
Wow, that's amazing. Doctora, I know we'll have just 8 minutes, but I want to focus on knowing you more. Um, who is Doctora Irish? Like, what is your goal? Can you tell me or ask something about yourself?
I really I don't like talking about myself very much, but I'd if you don't mind, I'd like to talk about the advocacies, like
Yes, sure.
why I'm doing what I'm doing, because that helps, I guess, like give an idea about me as well. So for me, it stems from seeing all this, this suffering in the world, because I've come from that as well, right? Like the brokenness, and knowing that there is a better way. So that's what really pulled me to share these learnings with people. And I have the advantage, I would say, that my practice is, like science, like it's steeped in the science, and so it's easy to talk about it. People listen. Being a doctor, you have this influence, and so knowing that this natural approach can help a lot of people, even in the aspect of health, the lifestyle modification, right? In terms of like addressing things like diabetes and high blood pressure, high cholesterol, it really is just the lifestyle most of the time. There's the occasional um, organic things that you can't really change, but most of the time it's just lifestyle. So having that awareness that, there's science behind lifestyle modification and I'm going to promote it. And so similarly, that's what happened with this concept of harmony, this concept of stress reduction, because it really affects all these other aspects that you see here. The physical, mental, emotional, spiritual gets affected a lot by how you deal with the stressors of life. And so coming from that brokenness, from suffering, it and the journey that comes with trying to find an answer, how can it be better, and discovering that there is actually a better way. That's what I would say is my passion. So I think really just helping people, one of my taglines for one of the platforms that I have created, which is the Filipino success movement, the tagline is level up, so people could identify with wanting to find a better way, right? Leveling up in all these key aspects. And so I think that gives a description of who I am. It's simply just a person just like anyone else who have come from adversity, from brokenness and who wanted to have a better way. And so she tried to find solutions and she has found some answers, and now she wants to share it with other people so they don't experience the same depth, like of desperation, or to help them like see the beauty of life, that there is a better way of living life. So it really comes from that. And I would say that encompasses, I guess, who I am. Yeah. So I'm someone who values harmony very much.
And that's what I like with you, Dr. It's like I when I choose a speaker, that's one of the trait that I want. The with the heart speakers with the heart of helping people. And I didn't even know that we came from a same place in Bicol. I'm so happy, to found you in this group of people that have the same advocacy, the same goal in helping people. And will you share about what is your group called the Successful? Can you tell me about your it or ask about it?
Oh yeah. So the Filipino success movement, it really is. It's a platform. It exists in different like media. So it's usually well, it started off in Facebook, but eventually we had to branch out. So we had to have like other channels because we wanted to reach more people. You know how some kids would be more on a certain platform like TikTok, and other kids would be on Instagram, for example. So it became like a multi-channel platform. But what it is, again, the tagline is very simple. It's level up. So it's helping people to want to have a better way, a better life, a better aspect of that, yeah, a better like version of that particular aspect of their lives. And then the other tagline is Hatak Pataas, which means we're here to help you. It's a supportive community. The Filipino culture, there's a very famous what I would say expression, right? It's the crab mentality where you pull other people down. And here in this platform, we want to espouse a different view. We want to promote a different advocacy, which is helping people to go up. Hatak, it's you're pulling up other people, and along the way, you're getting pulled up as well. So it's really a community. So there's Hatak Pataas. It's a community of people wanting to have a better life in key aspects of life. So that's what the Filipino Success Movement platform is all about. It isn't just the traditional success in a way like we're used to, like success. When you talk about success, it's really just monetary success. It isn't just that. So we're trying to showcase these different aspects of life, the mental, the emotional as well, the spiritual, and even the health aspect. And this is where my work with Dr. Rojo comes in. It's, we're collaborating to help people level up in the health aspect. So that's what that platform is all about. And my other platform is pretty much the same, but it's geared more towards an international audience. And the other platform talks a little bit more about the practice of mindfulness, because that's really what's close to my heart. And so yeah, so they're very they're similar, but there's just a different audience for one platform and a different thrust in that other platform.
Yes, I love that group. I think I like and been browsing on that group. And yes, level up. We not only Filipinos because we have viewers. We have viewers. Wendy, Delva. I have my friend here, Olivia Davis from USA. So we need to help each other progress and be successful. And anything that you wanted to add, Doctora? How can we get contact with you? Do you have like
Oh
Facebook?
yeah. So
Yes.
here, I'm just gonna share my screen. So yeah, it's easy to find uh my the things that I'm doing. They're all online. So yeah, this is just again emphasize that harmony, encompasses this holistic wellness. So the two platforms. So one would be under my name, and I talk a little bit more about mindfulness there. This is the Irish Rajdev MD. You can find that on YouTube. So there is a YouTube channel. I think there I have a few videos there, not that many, but I talk about suffering, failure, those types of things. And then you can find me on other platforms too, the Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, podcast. Again, because we try to reach as many people, different demographics as we can. And then you have the other channel. If you're Filipino, then maybe follow me on the Filipino Success Movement channel. But if you're not, then Irish Rajdev MD platform. And it will be putting out more material to really showcase this harmony, concept more. Yeah, so that's how you can connect with me.
Do you do one-on-one like coaching the part of
Oh
mindfulness?
no, yeah, I'm not a coach. Yeah, I don't do coaching. I would say I'm a mentor.
You're a
But I'm not a, because coaching is like you're helping someone like move towards a goal, but usually more like one-on-one. It can also be done in groups, but I'm not really a coach. No.
so you're
I
you can train somebody.
I'm a mentor. I don't do one-on-one. So I do my mentorship. I'm coming up with a few programs. So there's going to be a program under the Irish Rajdev MD. It's a lot of neuroscience that goes with it, and enhancing, functions like brain functions. So I will be mentoring there in that way. And in my other channels, it's really just like a mentor that you can, watch certain videos of. I don't have like a one-on-one program yet. I don't think, in the interest of, as you know, I value my harmonious living so much, and I'm very family oriented. So doing a one-on-one coaching for me, this is the reason why I don't do coaching, because it will impact, my family time. And so I would rather be a mentor to a group of people than do one-on-one and help very few people. So that, yeah.
Yes, yes. I understand you. So, Doctora, let me close this one. You have helped a lot of people. You haven't have like time to really get to know us one on one, but you have helped us manage a lot. Our stress right now. Um, I know it would help manage some of the people's anger, anxiety, depression, loneliness, and it's a form of like a form of disease prevention, and helping people handle them better could be potentially have more medical payoff. And so with that, we thank you for giving your precious time. I know you've been busy this morning, and haven't rest yet, but you have spent 1 hour with this audience from different groups, and God bless you and more power to you. Thank you so much.
God bless you too, Miss Grace, and to all our viewers. And hopefully, this will be the jump off point of you becoming aware that there is an option. There's an option, and that it is possible to experience the joys of life and even the difficulties and be okay with them. So, yeah, hopefully, this raised some awareness. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.